So have you ever tried sleeping when it's really hot out, when there's no power? If you haven't, it's exceedingly more difficult to sleep in a hot environment without power than it is to sleep in a very cold environment without power. When it's cold out, you can use a sleeping bag, you can use multiple layers. There's other ways you can generate heat without having any power. But when you're in a hot van, when you're in a tent, or even when you're just at home, and suddenly we have a rolling blackout or the brownouts, and if you're in California, start to get used to it. It's going to happen more. It's very difficult to sleep when there's no airflow and it's 80 degrees or more in your bedroom. You can only take so many clothes off. You can only take so many sheets off. But what you can do is have a battery-powered fan. So these are two options that I'm going to show you today that you'll find are useful for more than just that SHTF situation that you think is never going to happen. You're going to use these things a lot more than you'd expect for picnics, for camping, for your pets. So main advantages of a rechargeable fan would be that it acts as a regular floor or desk fan when it's plugged in during normal circumstances. And then the fan immediately switches to the battery backup as soon as the power gets cut. Whether it's a blackout or the outlet just trips, whatever the reason, it's always topping off its own battery bank, ready to switch over immediately. So for the next reason, 3, it can be a lifesaver for pets at home during a really hot day if you thought that your AC or conventional corded wall fans were going to stay on, and for whatever the reason, the power gets cut, or the AC just has a power failure, or maybe Freon just has a leak and it starts warming up. If you have one of these fans that's plugged in and can automatically power itself when the power gets cut, that could really be a literal lifesaver for your pets. So if you leave one of these on the floor, eventually your dog, if they're halfway intelligent, will figure out this environment is cooler. They usually are pretty good at figuring out where the cool floor is, and if they can figure out that there's cooler air in front of this fan, eventually they're going to start to gather around that. Or if they're in a crate, you could just put that fan right outside the crate and make sure it's always blowing in on them while you're at work. Now let me talk about a few additional and non-obvious advantages of a rechargeable fan. So one would be picnics. You can bring this anywhere. You don't have to have power, you don't have to run a generator. Next would be tent camping in warm weather. So if you've ever slept in a tent in the desert in a hot environment, again, very, very uncomfortable. A lot easier to sleep in a tent in very cold environments because you can get in the sleeping bag. The tent itself radiates a lot of heat back in. If you have partners in the tent, they create a lot of heat, especially dogs. So this can really help out. Small, rechargeable fan, you can hang it from the top of the tent, and they're directional. You can aim them just on yourself. They're very quiet. You can hear, this one is on right now. It's on low, and obviously if I bring it up to full speed, it's noticeably louder. And this is a 16-inch large fan. This is on high setting, and even on high, puts out a lot of air, but it's not noticeably audible. So leaving it on low puts out a decent amount of air, and it's silent. If you have an RV, you really don't want to run the generator just so you can cool off the fan a bit, the van or the motorhome a bit. The noise from the generator alone is going to kind of defeat the purpose of trying to be able to sleep. Another advantage is inside an RV, so you don't have to run the generator. And if you're trying to run the generator so you can sleep because it's hot out, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of running the generator because it's going to be so loud because of the motor, the engine. And then if you're working on your bikes or cars outside, you probably don't have access to power if it's super hot out, or before a race you just want some cool air while you're wrenching on your bike. Clips onto your bike rack and you have a nice breeze outside while you're working. You don't have to have any power. And also if you're doing a stationary bike, a lot of people are working out from home. They have a Peloton, they're using Zwift. This is awesome. And as I'll talk about in a second, it's water resistant, so if you sweat all over it, it's probably going to be fine. Why, might as well get it now, and you'll start to see how many other uses there are for it once you have it. So if you got some useful information out of this video, it would help incentivize me to make more of these if you did one of the following. Like, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. If you did all 3, I'd be super thrilled. And I am going to continue making these videos, hoping that I'm providing some, non-obvious, useful suggestions for emergency preparedness and off-grid survival. So, thank you for sharing your time with me. Let me know if that helps.